Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Kate and I make videos about books and bookish things, and I have a controversial opinion. So I recently took the train back home for the Christmas holidays. It was a 5.5 hour long train. Yes, I live really far away from home when I'm at university, and I needed some reading material for the journey. So my favourite thing to do when I have a lot of decision making to do myself in terms of what do I take home for university, what do I leave behind, and all the rest of it, I like to put it to my personal Instagram. So show them a pile of the books that I had, said what do you think I should read, and resoundingly I was told to read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've been looking forward to this book for quite some time. It has been all anyone can talk about in any aspect of the bookish community for a solid year or so now. It is one of the top books of 2021. It has been highly recommended by anyone who I've heard talk about it. And so I thought I would love it. Why wouldn't I? It has a lot of the stuff that I enjoy in books. So when everyone told me to read it, I thought, cool, that looks about the right length for a 5.5 hour train journey. I can probably get it done in that time. So I sat down to read it on the train, and I thought it was fine. And that was the most dangerous opinion I think I could have had. How can I think that a book that has been so universally adored and cherished is just fine? So I wanted to make a video talking about my thoughts on The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, some of the genuine critiques I have of the book, because it's not just that it was fine, I did think there were some things it did poorly, and about internet culture a little bit, specifically about book culture and about the ways that we talk about books and the ways that we hype books up to the point where they have almost impossible standards to meet. So let's start with my thoughts on The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. When I do a book review normally I will give a little synopsis, I'll talk about the characters, what happens in it, things like that, but because this book has been talked about so much I don't think I need to do that, so I'm just going to skip straight ahead to what my thoughts were on the book. I thought it was fine. I thought it wasn't bad, I thought it was pretty okay. I thought it had some good points, I thought it had some bad points, but that it wasn't anything special. Oh, I can already tell this is going to make some people upset. I've been seeing all the comments I got on my If We Were Villains video in which I said it's better than The Secret History, and that got some people mad. Let me just say, I'm allowed to have opinions. You're allowed to disagree with my opinions, and in fact, I welcome people disagreeing with my stance. So long as you can actually talk about it rather than just going, oh my god, I can't believe you didn't like it, what's wrong with you? That's not a constructive conversation. I would love to hear why you thought some things were excellent or why you hated some things, because there's always going to be differing opinions, so long as we can actually talk about it rather than me just being told that I'm wrong. Because that's just boring. So what did I like about The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo? Firstly, I thought it was written really engagingly. Even if I wasn't thoroughly enjoying it, I still really wanted to get to the end. I took a couple of breaks while I was on the train just because it was like 5 PM, so it was pitch black outside because it's England in December and I needed to give my eyes a break, so I did take some brief breathers from it, but all in all I wanted to keep reading it. It had my attention, and I think that is the greatest merit of Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing. I think that she has absolutely nailed that addictive writing style that makes you want to keep going. And I think it helps as well that the subject of the book is essentially gossip magazine fodder. It's about the scandals and sensations of the life of a 50s movie star. It's very glamorous and scandalising, and it is just, it's exciting. So of course you want to read about it, and it helps that Taylor Jenkins Reid writes it in such an engaging way. Another massive plus point of this book was the very, very explicit bisexual representation. Evelyn Hugo makes a point when Monique pigeonholes her and says, oh, so you had feelings for a woman, therefore you are a lesbian. She goes, no, I already told you, I fell in love with a man and I fell in love with a woman. I am bisexual, I like both men and women, do not erase this aspect of me, and I do not expect to see this erased in the article that you subsequently write. I thought that was absolutely excellent and is definitely worth noting, because there is not enough explicit bisexual representation where characters are shown to be, maybe not equally, but they are shown to have equal capacity to fall in love with men and women, and to say themselves, I am bisexual. And especially for a character who is in her 80s in like the 2010s, great to see. Very pleased. The rest of it I thought was alright. I wasn't hugely enamoured with the character of Evelyn Hugo, nor was I particularly invested in, is she Monica or Monique? Monique. I think that says a lot. I can't even remember the other main character's name. I thought she was... I'm gonna have to go straight into my bad points. I didn't think Monique's character was very well developed at all, and in fact, when I started the book, I was interested in Monique as the journalist being enabled to break this story, and about her fears about being the one entrusted with Evelyn Hugo's huge, sprawling, scandalous past. But I thought it didn't really go very far. The first couple of chapters, of course, are establishing how and why Evelyn Hugo is telling this story, but aside from that, the few then jumps we got into Monique's life again, where she's especially talking about her recent divorce, they did absolutely nothing for the story, I felt. And if anything, it just felt like a bit of a trying to slot in some kind of, oh, Evelyn Hugo's had a positive influence. And it just didn't do it for me. I found Monique much more interesting than Evelyn Hugo, and even then it wasn't enough. I also thought that, I think this is the thing that people are going to be the most pissed off about, I thought the plot twists were boring and predictable. I said it. I already knew the biggest plot twist going into it, because that was actually what made me want to read it. I, however, will not say it, because I think that I would have had a much more positive experience reading the book if I didn't know that big spoiler. So I will just say, when Monique asks Evelyn Hugo who the love of her life was, you know, in regards to her 7 husbands, who was the love of her life, Evelyn Hugo's response to that was a big plot twist, and that was what made me want to read the book, because I thought, oh, this is exciting, this is something new. But the others are, so for example, Evelyn Hugo has a reason for choosing Monique to be the one who writes up this story, and the whole way through she's saying, you know, oh, Monique, you won't like me by the time I get to the end of this story, this'll change everything you think. And I guessed it by about the second time she'd said that, and it got to it and I was like, cool. That's pretty on the nose, pretty obvious, pretty basic in terms of plot twists. And I also thought it was done far too melodramatically. The biggest plot twist right at the end, sort of the ending chapters with what happens, again, very predictable. I was pretty sure that was what was going to happen from the outset of the book, not because I had seen spoilers, not because I had heard other people talking about that specific detail. I just thought that would probably be the logical end to the book, and so this huge shock that the reader is supposedly meant to have alongside Monique, I just didn't get that, which, you know, it's, why would you bother? It felt on the nose, it felt obvious, predictable, boring, oh. And also, ultimately, I just didn't find Evelyn Hugo's life story all that interesting. I have to be honest. Yes, I wanted to read on, yes, I was engaged with the book, and I ultimately did want to find out about her 7 husbands, her life as a movie star, and everything that happened after that. But it wasn't thrilling. I wasn't enthused at the start of each new chapter. It wasn't something that made me excited, and I thought it would. I like reading stuff that is, you know, based on kind of trashy forms of media. For example, last year I read One to Watch by Kate Stayman London, and it was actually one of my favourite things I read last year. It was so much fun, and that is based on a Bachelorette-style reality dating show, which I don't watch, but I was engaging with that kind of media through the book. And I found it really fun because it is meant to be light-hearted entertainment in that regard. And, you know, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is essentially a long-form expose article on the scandals of this aged movie star. And yet, I still didn't find it all that enthralling. I I didn't much like Evelyn Hugo, if I'm honest. She wasn't a particularly nice character, and the fundamental relationship that a lot of the narrative hinges on, that with the love of her life, I thought they were very unhealthy for each other, and I found it frustrating, the emphasis that was placed on this relationship given how poorly Evelyn and this partner worked together, frankly. I just didn't find it that... Sometimes I like reading about horrible people with horrible people doing horrible things, and I'm not saying Evelyn Hugo is an awful character or an awful person as a character, but this wasn't even an exciting kind of, yes, two fucked up people fucking each other up more. This was just like, why are you bothering? Like, go find someone else. That's gonna make people mad as well. So now I've gone through my feelings about Evelyn Hugo, my opinions, what worked, what didn't work. I just want to talk about what the most difficult part of this was for me, which was just that I wasn't able to share in an experience that it seems pretty much everyone else has been able to have. All the book reviews I see of Evelyn Hugo talk about how it was a life-changing book for them, that it stuck in their mind for ages afterwards, that they were devastated at the sad points of the book, and that this is something that has genuinely shaped their reading experience. And I read it and thought it was fine. It will probably stick in my mind purely because it was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but it is not going to stick in my mind because it was a transcendent reading experience, and I feel sad that I wasn't able to experience that. I had gone into it with the expectation that I would be absolutely blown away by it. I wanted to be blown away by it, but I just wasn't, and it feels really sad to miss out on what has so far been portrayed as a universal reaction to this book. Yeah, it's weirdly lonely in that way, not being able to say, yeah, I read it, wasn't it incredible? But in that way, I think it's important to talk about the fact that opinions on books are very subjective. And to that end, I think my ultimate flaw with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is just that it wasn't for me. And that's really sad. You know, this book that everyone has been saying, everyone loves it, it's perfect, no one dislikes it, or if they do, they have a very strong opinion, which is, I guess, still valid because you have a strong feeling about it. And yet I'm here like, it was fine. It was alright. For me, it was like a 3.5 star book. Probably won't read it again, but have nothing really against it. It's hard and it's weird. And I think it comes as part of that sort of easy mob mentality to some extent of everyone has this awareness of what a book is meant to be. You know, I've never read, for example, of Court of Thorns and Roses, and yet I feel like I know what my reaction to it is supposed to be because of this universal overview of it that has been given via everyone's opinions on the internet being shared about it. It's odd when you then read something and your experience with it doesn't align with the expectations. It just missed my expectations for it. And the worst part is it's not even because I had some great flaws with it and I'm like, it's terrible, it's awfully written or anything like that. It's just because I'm like, I have some nitpicks, but otherwise it just wasn't for me. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say. And finally, I just want to say though, if you did absolutely adore this book, awesome. I'm so glad. I'm really glad it was that book for you, and I'm sad that it wasn't that book for me. But yeah, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, my opinions are my own, and it's a shame I couldn't experience it in the same way that everyone else did, but I thought it was worth adding my voice to the experience of reading this book to say it's okay if these books that are meant to be life-changing just don't do that for you. I'll leave it there. Please, if you do want to talk about this book with me, just be sensible, frankly. Let's talk about it, not shout at each other. I would love to hear other people's experiences. I would love to hear if, for example, you did love it, but some of my critiques of it resonate with you. That would be great to hear. But yeah, thank you for watching. Please give this video a like if you did indeed like it, and comment down below your thoughts on anything I've discussed, really, if you so please. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more of my bookish content, and I will see you next time.